Okay, to make the clear pouches, you need some vinyl. You can just find this at any I found this at Walmart, but any fabric store. It usually comes on a long bolt and they unroll it for you. And then you also need some bias tape. You can buy the package kind that comes in a little envelope at the store, or you can make your own. And then you also need some snaps and then a snap attachment guide, and I'll show you how to use that. So let's get to it. I'm going to show you how to make the small clear clutch, just because it fits in the camera frame, but it's the exact same technique if you want to make the water resistant pool bag that I have the larger measurements for in the blog post. So it's the exact same steps, just different proportions of stuff. So for this small clutch, I decided to make it 10 inches by about 13 inches. But you can do any proportions you want. You just will need a slightly different amount of bias tape. So you've got your rectangle or square, and then you want to fold it in half and see how there's a little lip, the distance from this edge to there. It's kind of hard to see with the clear stuff, but I leave about 1/2 inch difference. And then what we're going to do is we're going to fold this double fold bias tape over. I'm going to actually bend the edge of that. Do you see how I do that? And I'm gonna fold it over, and then I'm gonna sew down this edge. And then I like to use binder clips to hold it in place, but if you have quilting supplies, that works too. And honestly, you don't really need to clip them, but you can just hold it into place as long as you go slowly. So tuck the edge under and line it up. Okay. Now for this top piece, if you want it to be more like a wristlet, right, to have a handle, then you want to line it up and then make sure you have enough of a handle to fold under. I also like to kind of put a bottom edge on here, so I'm gonna do that first since I just have a limited amount and I don't care that much about how okay, so you have two choices. You can just leave it folded like this and just let it be a pocket, like I did with the swim bag, or you can line the bottom edge, and the way you do that is you can just fold it here, or you could cut it apart so that it lays more flat. I think we'll cut it apart. So that means if you have smaller pieces of vinyl, you can do that too. And then you just do the same that you did on that top edge, but this time make sure to catch both layers of vinyl on this bottom edge. So, that. Binder clip. And then, see, you're just sandwiching it in and you're clipping it. And you want to cut it a little bit past there, and then you fold it under, and then clip it again. Okay. And then now, I'm just gonna go zigzag stitch the bias tape into place. I like to use a zigzag, that way if I'm not perfect and the two sides are not perfectly aligned, it'll still catch it pretty good and you'll be good to go. So we're gonna go to the machine and we're gonna zigzag here, we're gonna zigzag here. Okay, so we have our clear pouch clipped into place. with these binder clips, the bias tape is sandwiching the edges. We did the bottom edge, but that's optional. You can just leave it to be a plastic loop. And then now we're gonna zigzag them down. I think we'll do this bottom edge first since it'll free up some stuff. We're gonna set it to a regular zigzag with a wider type of stitch. So I have this set on a 4 and a 3.5. And then you're just gonna stitch through and just make sure that the fabric is holding in place. And of course, remove the binder clips when you come to them. And do back stitch at the ends. Okay. So see how it's got that nice zigzag right there? Okay, and then we're gonna do it at the top now too. So. If you care a lot about if it sticks out, you can be more careful. But these are functional bags for me, so I don't care if there's just like a little corner sticking out. But you can be more careful with that, or even trim the corners in if you want to. So now you have this lip and this lip, and you're gonna have this one fold over, and we're gonna have the snaps go in right there. Okay, so we just attached the bias tape to the bottom edge, or the very bottom edge of the bag and the bottom edge of the top snap place. And now we're gonna put the wristlet section on. So once again, we're folding the edge, just tucking it under, and then we sandwich the vinyl across. So we can just open this up so it's not in our way. And then we're gonna use the binder clip to hold this in place while we position it and while we sew. And since we are going to do a wristlet, I want to have some extra length here so that I can slide my hand in it and just let it hook on my hand when I'm out and about. So I'm just gonna fold, when we come to this part, I'm gonna fold it under, and I'm just going to tack it down. I'll show you at the sewing machine how we do that. But just tuck it under and then tack it down. Well, I'll probably do it right here so it's not in the way of our closure. Cool? So now let's go back to the sewing machine. We are going to just zigzag from here to here, and then we're gonna straight stitch all the way around here and tuck under the edge. And then we're gonna sew that part down right here. Maybe we'll go from this direction. It's still on the zigzag stitch. Okay, now I'm gonna switch it to a straight stitch. And I'm just gonna sew the two sides of the double fold bias tape down together. And when we get close to this edge, I'm just gonna tuck it under and sandwich it down. Just so the raw edges get enclosed in there. Okay. Now, it looks like this. And now I'm just gonna fold it over and make sure it's not twisted. And I'm gonna sew a box X right here just to reinforce the connection. So I'm just gonna sew down and back up diagonal, across, down diagonal, and back across, just to make it a little X. And then unless you're carrying very heavy things, you probably just need a couple back and forth stitches. The X is probably just a little overkill, but that way I know it's reinforced. And when I am carrying it around on my wrist, it should be fine. It's not gonna come undone. Okay, now let's go put the snaps on. Okay, so you basically have your bag sewn with the sides still open. We're gonna add snaps, and now this part is totally up to preference. So you can make it so that you have maybe about 3 snaps and have 2 on the ends, like that. Or you could do it so that you sew these ends down when you're gonna sew the sides, and you just have 1 or 2 in the middle. So it totally depends if you want it to stay semi-closed even when the snaps are open, or if you want to have a wider opening when you go in there. So I think that I'm gonna do the semi-closed version. That way, even if I forget to snap it closed, things will kind of stay, and if I want to get it in, it should still be good. Okay, so with that being said, I'm just gonna do 1 snap in the middle. To find the middle, you could measure or you can fold. I feel like folding ends up being a little more accurate. So you kind of mark your middle part. We've got it there. Let me find a marker. Okay. And then we're gonna put the snaps in. When you're putting snaps on, you wanna pay attention to the different pieces. I can't tell you how many times I've put them on backwards, even though I feel like I try to pay extra good attention. So all of them will have this kind of attaching cap piece, and then a female piece and a male piece that fit in together. So these are gonna fit together like that. See? So you wanna make sure, especially when you are doing more than one. When you are doing one, it's hard to get apart when the caps aren't on. When you're doing one, it's not as easy to mix them up. But when you're doing more than one and you have multiple pieces, you want to make sure that you're paying good attention to where everything is. So start by poking a hole where your snap is going to be. This is just kind of a tool that comes with the snap setter. But I actually took a while to find this one just now, and I considered using a seam ripper. It probably would have worked. You just need to kind of make a basic hole to poke your stuff through. So I'm using this one first, and since this is gonna fold over like that, we want the snapping part to be on the top. So we put this underneath and just kind of feel around, get it through the hole. And then put your piece on. And then this is a snap setter. It's just a clamp style one. They have big machine ones. There's all different types. You want to make it so that your snap fits in that black part. And then you just kind of press down. And what you're going to do is you're pressing it so that this prong gets bent down and it kind of smushes down, and it will hold that snap into place. And then see how it got smushed down? And then I like to kind of come from a different angle and just do a little stronger push. Okay, see how that's flattened and it's gonna hold it down? Now, we're gonna do this top snap. So we've already marked it, and we can just poke our hole there. And make sure you've got the right pieces and that they're going the right direction. They are a kind of a pain in the neck to take off if you've put it on, and depending on your fabric, it might tear your fabric, right? So you have to be extra careful. But I have successfully pulled them off with pliers if you do need to do that. So that's on top. The one that fits right here goes right here. Make it fit in that black part. And then squeeze. And see, it's smushed down and it's gonna hold it in place. And these are really strong snaps. They're the cam snaps. And I have the link for those in the description and in the blog post. Okay, so your bag is still open. What we are gonna do next is we're just gonna fold this over. We're gonna do a straight stitch down these two sides. If you do want to go all the way to the edges, you can add 2 more snaps, one on each side, and then stop your stitches right here. That way they can snap into place. It's just a matter of preference. Let's go to the sewing machine. Okay, so we just fold it over, and we just stick it in the machine, and make sure to back stitch at both ends. And these ends are a little thick with the fold over, so you want to make sure you're using a strong needle and kind of go slow and give it time. Now I'm just sewing on this vinyl by itself, but if you find that it's sticking and it's really hard to manage, you can put a piece of regular old wrapping tissue paper underneath, like that stuff that you wrap around presents, and it'll help it guide it through, and you can pull it away when you're done. I do have a video tutorial for that I will link if you want to see how that works. There you go. You can lengthen your stitch length on this step. That normally I do that. I didn't this time, but either way works. Then flip it over into the other side. You can see it's kind of sticking there to the machine, which it's such a small piece I don't mind just pulling it. But the tissue paper trick does work really great if you find that it's being really resistant. Okay, and there you go. It's your bag. It's a nice clear snap bag. If you have see how it's a little bit uneven right here on the edge, if that bugs you, you can just trim it down or leave it. I mean, it's just a silly little clear bag. It doesn't really have to look perfect, but if you're using it for a gift or something like that, you might want to trim it up just to make it look a little more clean. And there you go. You can put your stuff in, and you always know where to find everything. Cute, right? And if you want to take it to the pool or somewhere like that, obviously you can't dunk it, but it's going to be splash proof. Okay, so for the swim size wet bag, this is something I take to the pool with me, and I shove all of our wet swimsuits in when we're leaving the pool, and aqua socks and any pool toys. I like to have a bigger size. You won't be able to see the whole thing on the film, but it's the exact same process we did to do this small size clutch. I am gonna leave this fold open instead of lining it. I do think it looks a lot cuter if you line it, but it does gather more water. So the bag will dry quicker and just have less to dry, less wet spots carrying around if you have less of the fabric that'll pick up the water. Okay, so exactly the same process.
Hey, there's Oscar. Hey, wait a minute, Oscar. What are you doing?